All right, today we're stepping right into the police interrogation room. And we're going to look at one of the most fascinating performances you could ever imagine. A suspect pretending to be insane. How do detectives see through an act like that? Let's get into it.
I mean, think about it. It's a question detectives are up against all the time. But this is different, right? How do you spot a lie when it's not about what happened, but about a person's entire state of mind? We're going to break down the tells, the strategies, and, those key moments where that mask, it always slips.
Okay, so take a look here. This is 26-year-old Dawson McGee. He's in an interrogation room just after murdering his own mother. Now, at this moment, he thinks he's totally alone. But just watch. Watch what happens the second a detective even gets close to that door. See that? That instant switch in his entire body language? That's our starting point. The performance has officially begun.
So you've got to be asking, why would someone like McGee even try this? Well, a lot of suspects have this idea that pleading insanity is some kind of get-out-of-jail-free card. But the reality? It's brutal. You don't just walk free. You get committed to a high-security psychiatric facility, and often for just as long as a prison sentence, sometimes even longer. Trust me, it's an agonizing place to be if you aren't genuinely sick.
When it comes down to it, there's really only one massive, strategic reason to go all in on an insanity defense, especially when you're facing the most serious charges imaginable. It's this. In the United States, you cannot be executed if you're deemed legally insane at the time of the crime. And that single fact, that's the whole reason for the crazy, elaborate performances we're about to break down.
Okay, so to really understand what a performance of insanity looks like, we first need a baseline, right? We need to see something that looks a lot more like the real deal. So let's take a look at the case of 18-year-old Jared Murray. His interrogation is going to be our benchmark, our critical point of comparison. Just listen to how Murray talks about the murder. It is so cold, so methodical. It's completely factual. There is zero performance here, no emotional spin whatsoever. He's just stating what happened, step by horrifying step, almost like he's describing how to change a tire.
And this exchange, wow, it just perfectly illustrates the complete disconnect. The detective asks him, "Do you feel any remorse?" And Murray's only regret is for himself. He's just bummed that his escape plan didn't work. This isn't an act, you guys. This is a genuinely chilling look inside a mind that is just operating on a totally different wavelength than the rest of us.
So let's sum up our baseline. What are we seeing with Murray? He has absolutely no sense of self-preservation. None. He doesn't try to make excuses. He doesn't blame anyone else. He actually asks for the death penalty. I want you to burn these traits into your mind because they are the complete opposite of what we are about to witness.
Okay, baseline established. Now let's turn to our main event, our primary case study. Nicolas Cruz, the 19-year-old who murdered 17 people at his former high school in Parkland, Florida. His interrogation, it's truly a masterclass in faking insanity.
So what does he do right after the massacre? Well, his actions show pure calculation and clarity of mind. He drops his rifle, blends right in with the students who are running for their lives. He walks to a Subway, then a McDonald's, where he calmly has a conversation with the brother of one of the students he just killed. I mean, these are not the actions of someone who's lost touch with reality. These are the actions of someone desperately trying to escape the consequences.
But then, the second he's in that interrogation room, the whole performance kicks into high gear. He starts with this totally catatonic, head-down thing. But watch this. The moment the detective leaves and that door shuts, bam! His head snaps up, he's alert, he's checking out the room, and then his eyes lock right onto the camera. He knows he's being watched. And just like that, the act is back on.
Okay, so now we meet the other player in this high-stakes game, Detective John Curcio. And look, he's not just in there to get a confession. He already knows Cruz is guilty. His real goal is to completely dismantle this elaborate lie. And to do that, you need a very, very specific strategy. You can think of the detective's playbook as a careful 4-step process. First, he's got to build some rapport. Then, and this is key, he has to lock the suspect into their own story. He's like, "Tell me everything. Tell me about the demons, the voices, all of it." Why? Because the more details Cruz gives him, the more rope he has to hang himself with later. It's brilliant.
And when you put them side by side like this, the difference is it's night and day. It's crystal clear. You've got Murray, who is factual. Cruz, totally evasive. Murray was emotionally a blank slate, while Cruz is cycling through what feels like a whole library of emotions. And here's the biggest one. Murray had zero self-preservation. Cruz is fighting for his life, actively building a defense right there in the room.
All right, now we're getting to the heart of it.
Let's break down the exact moments where Cruz's whole charade starts to crack under the pressure of the detective's game plan.
Okay, this might be the single most revealing moment of the entire interrogation. He's left alone and watch his hands. They subtly start to mimic holding his rifle. And then you see it. A little smirk crosses his face. It really looks like he's reliving the attack with some kind of twisted satisfaction. And then, in a split second, it's like he remembers the camera's there and that smirk is gone, instantly replaced with fake crying and gestures. It's his true self and his fake self colliding right there on camera for everyone to see.
So the whole foundation of his defense rests on this idea of a demon voice that he says controls him. He tells the detective it commands him to do things. You know, burn, kill, destroy. This is the entire story he's trying to sell.
And this is where Detective Curcio is so smart, he locks him into that story. He asks this simple little follow-up question. Okay, so the voice told you to burn something. What did you burn? The answer he gets just shows how paper-thin this whole story really is.
His answer? He built a fire in a fire pit. So this all-powerful, destructive demon voice was apparently totally cool with him doing a completely normal, safe activity. This is one of the first huge logical cracks in his story. I mean, it's almost comical, it's so absurd.
And then, there's this. This is a video they found on Cruz's own phone. Listen to this. There's no demon here. There's no internal struggle. It is just a calm, chillingly clear announcement of exactly what he plans to do. This is the definition of premeditation, not psychosis. He wasn't a passenger along for the ride. He was the one in the driver's seat.
So, armed with all these contradictions, Detective Curcio moves in for the final act. The time for building rapport is over. Now it's all about applying pressure and confronting Cruz directly with all the holes in his performance.
And Curcio just lays it all out. He starts listing all the ways Cruz himself said he could have stopped the demon, like smoking marijuana, which Cruz admitted made the voice go away. The logic is just inescapable. And as his act completely falls apart, Cruz starts to panic. That whole persona of a tormented soul, it just evaporates. And what's left is the raw, genuine fear of a killer who's been cornered. So what does he do? The one thing a performer can't do? He asks for an attorney.
And that's really the whole key right there. The act of being crazy was never about being out of control. It was a desperate attempt to gain control over the consequences. The show was only over when the performer realized his audience of one, Detective Curcio, wasn't buying a ticket.
Ultimately, a case like this forces all of us to ask a really unsettling question. Where exactly do we draw the line between a monster and a madman? When evil is this calculated, this deliberate, can we ever truly call it madness? Or is madness just the convenient label we use for a kind of horror we just can't comprehend? It's a tough question, one the justice system grapples with every day, and it's definitely something that leaves you thinking.